Getting back to my family, 4 sisters, thanks very much. Huge effort. Peter's overseas. Thanks very much for coming. We've had a hard 12 months with Dad passing away at Easter. I think we've pulled together a little bit closer, so I really appreciate the help and your support over the last 12 months. Thanks very much. Tom and Molly at home, 2 kids. I couldn't ask for 2 better kids. They're growing up to be absolutely fantastic people, and we're very, very proud of them. Molly made me a card. She handed it over to me today before I left home, and it had all the grand finals on the front. Unbelievable, these computers and crap, they're fantastic. All the grand finals on top, and it was absolutely fantastic card, absolutely beautiful. Well wishes, thanks very much for SMSs today, phone calls, absolutely beautiful. Mickey Swartz rang me, he said he had to leave Cairns, there was no more soy sauce. He had to leave. He's down at Toowoomba now. Check out the Asian shops in Toowoomba. He's a good man. So Ronnie, so Ronsta, thanks very much for your support. 18 years this year of marriage, it's been fantastic. Anybody with a bowel disorder, which I've had, their wife has to put up with a lot of shit. Your wife packs 4 underpants, you only go away for a night. It's not right. No, she's good. Thanks very much. You've been a great support for a long time. All right, I'm going to go through a couple of other things here. The junior years at the club. I started playing under 11s. It was an exciting time with the building of the new rooms. I didn't know I was going to spend half my bloody life in them. In those days, in the juniors, I made many friendships that are still very important to me today. The senior years. They were the F times. It's not what you're thinking. Food, football, fun, females and fosters. Actually, females and fosters were in the juniors too. That's the very end of it. Now watching my son travel a similar journey, I feel very proud of him and very happy for him. Wish I was 15. So what does the club mean to me? Well, before I go into that, I've got to go back to that. Wait on. We're not going on with... I saw Mark before, and sponsors are here. We need a big sponsor for next year. We're not getting shirts, we're not getting caps, stubby holders, we're getting Snuggies. You've seen the commercial. We're getting Snuggies, they're going to be great. We're going to keep them red. We're going to keep them red. So when you get belted where I'm at the football, you just bleed and just go like that. Right, no, nothing. All right? So have a think about that. You get a little torch or a light with them. We're going Snuggies, they're going to be great. We can all walk around like a bishop, they're going to be grouse. Great, oh, what am I doing? So what does the club mean to me? Great memories of grand finals I'll never forget. Even coaching the under-12s to a flag in 06, I looked at it like a great achievement. I really believe words like mateship, family, loyalty and dedication make up a great club, and our club has them all. I feel very honoured to be in high company with other life members such as Mickey Swartz, John Headage, Peter Evans, Mark Retch and Deb Connors. I'll leave you with this. The club isn't made up of bricks and mortar, it's made up of great people like you. Have a great night. Thanks very much.
Mick, can you come back? Haven't actually got anything more for you to do, just wanted everyone to see your backside again. Just stand there, mate, because I've got a couple of little things we've got to do here, the formal part of the presentation. Gretchen, could you come up again, please? And Brian, could you rejoin us back up on stage? And also I'd like to call on another Life member, Jeff McInerney, who you all know as Fat Rat, to come up here and propose a toast to our newest Life member of the Sunshine Football Club.
Can I go get me beer? Nah, no. That's fine. Get away from me.
Wait for feedback.
Yeah, it's good. Get one in before breakfast.
Put this on mobile, please. That's it. Come out.
Where do you want this?
Yeah, it's fine. And then be able to get it to me. Someone likes the shirt as well.
There you go. Look at that.
Boys getting close.
He's out of control.
Could you please all be upstanding with your glasses charged? We present Mick Argus, life member of the Sunshine YCW Football Club. 3 cheers for Mick. Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray! Well done. Thanks, Ferret. Thanks, Scratch.
G'day buddy, how are you? Life membership, come over here you. Life membership tonight, absolutely fantastic. I'm wrapped in front of 400 people. Couldn't be happier, but what it means to me is I suppose just being up there since I was young, under 11s onwards. A great place to be around, great place to bring your family up. Absolutely, friendships, mateships, a lifetime thing, absolutely huge. Hopefully my son will go on, play seniors, and we'll be just up there forever and a day. It'll be absolutely great. Thanks very much.
Mr. President, committee members, fellow life members, members and all, it gives me much pleasure. It gives me much pleasure to be given the privilege to cover the early history of this great club. I've been first coach. It is a great honour. I was appointed by accident. First choice was Sean Crosby, but VFA commitments did not allow him to fulfil the position. Second choice was the legendary Eric Huxtable, former Carlton and state player. Our first training session was at Matthews Hill, the change rooms being 4 or 5 gum trees. The oval was onion grass and weeds on red clay, concrete when dry, and a skating rink when wet. No water or power. No water or power was available. We played our home games at Barclay Reserve, Albion. Our first game was against West Heidelberg at home. To our great disappointment, we were beaten, thinking we had a very competitive side with such players as Cotter, Crosby, Darcy, Ryan, Brennan, Ewer and the Toomeys. John Ryan was captain and John Harry Brennan vice-captain. John Noyes was one of our better players. He would not only been out of place at Flemington. After the first game, John was not allowed to play due to his age. In this game, several league footballers arrived. Our own David Darcy and 3 or 4 West Heidelberg players. In the first year, we played in the first semi-final to be beaten by Thornbury. In those years, the parish support was quite strong, with crowds between 700 to 1,000 people for our home games. The YCW Football Association broke the Sunday organised football ban. Hence, the VFA lobbied the state government to have Sunday football introduced to the landscape. We had 3 seasons at Barclay Reserve before we moved to Kindersmith Reserve Sunshine, with many working bees to bring the oval and change rooms up to scratch. We must thank many families and tradesmen Father Walsh, now Monsignor, was the driving force behind the tradesmen and business people were marshalled to transform the facility into what we have today. Many members, first, second and third generations are still playing or helping to run the club today. In the early days, the committee met at Drayton Street, the home of George and Margaret Evans. These nights consisted of a few ales, followed by a lovely homemade soup and a roast lamb. Some nights lingered on into the wee small hours of the morning, with the odd challenge was made, from a foot race down Drayton Street to a swim in the bay at Williamstown, with temperatures freezing. These nights were regulars for many years. Myself, John Larson, Ned Brewers, Peter, George and Margaret Evans were there every night. Later in the evening, Bernie Winters, Dick Hume, Brian Crosby, John Lesueur, Ray Villa from time to time dropped in for a very robust and lively discussion on any topic. In '61, we were beaten in the second semi-final by Footscray YCW. Played Thornbury in the preliminary final. This match is spoken about more than any other match. Late in the final quarter, an all-in brawl developed, involving players and spectators from both sides. Johnny Bain, Thornbury's captain, who later went on to play senior football with Fitzroy, was the main aggressor. Winning the final, we played Footscray in the grand final, be beaten by a few points, hitting the post 3 times in the last quarter. In '61, a second side was formed, an under-19. They finished second. The under-17s finished third. 62, we moved to Kindersmith. Clubs still growing, under-15s were formed. All sides finished in the final. David Darcy won the association under-19 best and fairest, and Terry Toomey also won the competition under-17 best and fairest. In '63, the club fully grown, we entered an open age side in the YCW competition under Trevor Corcoran. At this stage, no premiership, but all sides played in finals. In '64 was the start of the golden era. Dick Hume arrived to coach the under-17s to the much-prized Holy Grail. Celebrations in Our Ladies' Hall lives in many people's memories today. Larry Young emceed that night. Dick Hume's home was an open house for the next 3 or 4 years. The under-17s won back-to-back premierships in '65. In '66, the club arrived and won an A-grade premiership with Trevor Corcoran, the coach. Dick Hume coached his 3rd premiership in a row, the under-19s. In '64, In '64, the under-17 football trip went to Wirralli and players were billeted out in the district. In '65, Wirralli came to Sunshine and were billeted within the parish. In 1965, the senior players and officials had their first end-of-the-season trip. It was to a farmhouse in Springfield. The following 2 years, we went up market. We had 2 or 3 great trips to the YCW camp at Phillip Island. Father Grabbo was our spiritual guidance. In the first decade, the club won 8 premierships and was runners-up 13 times. Thank you very much. Barry will continue.
Thanks very much, Bill. That's a wonderful tribute to the early years of the club. As others have said earlier tonight, this club has been formed on the basis of a family connection. All of those families in the early years were very important to the foundation of the club. I would like to now pay tribute to some of the families involved in 1959 and are still involved today. And it's with great pleasure I have to say that the first 1959 side was coached by Bill O'Cleiffe, and he's alluded to some of the families that were involved in those days. The Evans family, George in fact was Bill's manager. He's a life member and father of Peter, who married Eileen, Bill's sister. And if you want an interesting story, ask Eileen how long it took to get a hold of Peter. Peter, as mentioned, who can overlook the contribution this man has made to dedicating more than 30 years of his life to this club? As a player, even in gumboots, although he'll probably deny it because he denied playing golf in gumboots at Phillip Island. Boundary marker extraordinaire, secretary, treasurer for as long as anybody can remember. They should have just put one Peter Evans in 45 years after his name on the scoreboard. Would have saved a lot of ink. And he's still involved today and still running successfully the YCW offshoot of the golf club. The Brewers family, Ian, or Ned to many, life member, captain, player, senior and junior coach, undefeated in 1 year. His brother John, player and senior coach. Norm, whom we lost so tragically so early. And Phil, all were terrific players with the club. And Father Jack was ever present and ready to assist. The County family, Terry, life member, first player to reach 200 games, senior captain, premiership player, interstate rep, best and fairest, donor, sponsor. Gary, player, one-time coach of the girls team, insisting that they rip off their jumpers right now if you're not prepared to put in. Mum, Gwen, what a woman. There's nothing to have seen 50 jumpers hanging on her line during the winter season. Twins, Tony and Maureen, Tony a player, Maureen, who were age 1 in 1959 when the club was formed. Who can question Maureen's commitment to the club? Her 3 boys all played. Shane has been of great support doing stats and all sorts of other things, and she has been involved in most aspects of the club, including a team management of the senior team, and still helps on a Thursday night, even though her boys are no longer involved at the club. Maureen and Tony were also responsible for the first banner or run-through back in 66, which was about as wide as this lectern, and some of the players had trouble fitting through it. And she's still making those banners today. And finally, the other member of the county family is Sue, whom I happened to marry in 1966. And she has been a fantastic support to me over the years, especially when I was so grossly involved in the club. And she too was a great jumper washer and terrific support around the place. Even in the last few years, she's been a big supporter of the club. The Toomey family. Now, all of these people, remember, were involved in the first year in 1959. The Toomey family, Terry, YCW best and fairest, and Gary, both captains and club's best and fairest players. Gary, life member, interstate rep, and is still a major contributor around the place. Lynn, the sister of Gary and Terry, married Trevor Corcoran, our first senior coach of the 1966 Open Age team. It's a great pleasure to see Trevor and Lynn here tonight. Father Ted was always on hand to lend a hand to these guys, and also in fact coached the under-19s to a premiership in 1967. David Darcy, and it's also a pleasure to see David here tonight, unquestionably our major export to the VFL ranks, or AFL ranks if you like, did it all with YCW and has been a big sponsor recently. So to all of these families and to other families that have been involved since the first year, and there are myriads of, as Keith alluded to earlier, there are growing numbers in the families that are now supporting the club hugely. And we encourage that support. We thank them for their contributions, and we wish the club well for the rest of their years, and I congratulate Mick Argus on his elevation to life membership tonight.
There you We're going to do this one slightly different. We're going to do this one as a sort of a question and response thing with the boys. So Michael's going to cover the first half of the 70s, because they're the only parts of it he can remember. And then Greg's going to do the second half of the 70s. So the first thing, and I guess the major event that happened at the start of the 1970s was that the rooms burnt down. Michael, come and tell us about that.
Yes, thanks, Kevin. Well, 1970, we had won the premiership in 1969 in B grade. We moved into the A grade in 1970, first time in A grade, and I remember we won our first game at Kinder Smith Oval. We beat West Preston by 40 points. Had a huge barbecue at the Swartz family home after the game. And at the end of the season, I can't remember how we did, but at the end of the season, in October, I think it was the same day that the Westgate Bridge fell down, our rooms were burnt down. And a lot of stories about how the rooms burnt down. I won't go into it, but a lot of stories how they actually got burnt down. But anyway, it was rather a disaster for the club, because although all the photos, flags and all that stuff had been saved, sounds a little bit like Spotswood, doesn't it? But whoever burnt the rooms down, we're very grateful, because we had been at the rooms there from 1962 until 1970, when the rooms were there, got burnt down. And after that, we had no rooms. 1971, 72, 73, we had no rooms. We used Chisholm College, St John's College as it was in those days. We changed in St John's College, and then we used to run down that little lane that is still there between the Dobson Crescent and Treloar Crescent, or whatever it is, and run onto the ground. And I do recall one day we were due to play West Heidelberg, who were by far one of the better teams in the competition, and West Heidelberg refused to play. They wouldn't play on the ground. The concrete on the ground was too hard. The pitch on the ground was too hard. So the game was cancelled. But a significant issue was the rooms burning down.